So, hi, I'm Sarah, part of the 2018 Get Messy Creative Team, and I'm here talking with my fellow creative team member, TC. Hi, TC.
Hey, hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm so glad that we can make this work.
I know. It's great to talk to other creative team members.
I know it's a treat. It's a treat to be on the team, and it's been really fun to get to know people. I feel like I
Yeah.
have some new pals. It's great.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess we just start with the basics. Like, what's your creative story?
Ooh, just the basics, huh? Like,
Well, yes, we can start there.
well, let's see. So I did not start off doing visual art, I guess. So I've been drawing or doing stories, like making stories for as long as I can remember. So grew up writing, um, submitted articles here and there, did this, I don't know, I wrote a novel. Nothing's happened with it. Don't worry, I would let you know if it had, but no. So, I've completed a novel and I just was really into like writing and blogging and just kind of that was my mode of expression. And that served me really well for a really long time. Um, and then I was part of a writing group online, and they don't exist anymore. Otherwise, I'd plug them because it was a great community. But they were encouraging people to try doing something other than writing, like try a different kind of creative medium, I guess. And so they steered us as one option towards art journaling, which I had never ever heard of ever in my whole life. So I was like, well, that sounds like super different than what I know, so we'll try that. And it just so happened that kind of at that same time, there was just some stuff in my family's life, and my dad was kind of had been diagnosed with some sickness stuff, and so I was finding that I had a lot of inner blah, and words weren't really helpful in that because I couldn't hardly even put my finger on what it was that I would want to say in the first place. And there was the piece of it that, like, writing about it or blogging about it, it felt like that's not, it's my story, yes, but it's also not my story. Like, that's his information to share. And it felt, yeah, I don't know, it felt something about that felt icky to me. And so the art journaling thing became a very perfect way of getting to sort through some of those feelings and emotions and do something with them, since the writing thing wasn't really an option at that point. And so, and then not to be grim or anything, but then things went south. And then my dad he got sicker, and it was cancer. And you know how the story goes, that not all of those outcomes are good. And so he passed away, and that was 4 years ago this summer. And I just can't even tell you what a gift art journaling was and is through that, because I was a mess and was going through a lot of just, I was really pissed. And there's just a lot of anger about how this could happen, and being honestly pretty mad about some God stuff in that. And so, I mean, you throw some
Yeah.
spirituality in there just to make it extra messy. So, it was really a hard time. And the art journaling was just honestly therapy. I mean, it was so useful, just to be able to not have to censor myself and not have to worry about, oh, how, if I say this, how's that going to come across to my kids or my mom, or, all these other factors. Being able to just put it down in my journal was enormously helpful. So, and then I just found that I just kept going. Like, it was just became, yeah, it just became another language in a sense. So yeah, that's kind of how it got started. And I'm finding that my words are returning, if you will, but the art, it's great because it's like a melding um, of both words and tactile and visual and all those sensory components, I guess. So yeah, that's where I find myself right now, is just um, I'm feeling compelled to use more words and maybe even do more reflecting on the back of things, or incorporating that in a layer and then move from there. But yeah, so that's kind of where I find myself right now.
That's yeah. That's quite a journey.
It's kind of a hot mess. It's kind of a hot mess.
So in the beginning, was it more like art based and less words? Because you have that writing background, like you would think you would be word heavy, but were you finding yourself doing less words?
Oh yeah, no words, very few. At the very beginning, they would give us a couple prompts, or something to reflect on, and some of mine was just like just, I will now scrape on the page and hope that I feel better now. So I mean, so it was really just that, or maybe one word or a phrase, and that was all I could really muster at that point. So yeah, it was very um, a lot of paint was used in that period. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was looking at some of your work and it just seemed like it's kind of different from, not, I don't want to say it's different from who you are, because of course it's a part of you, but like you kind of have this really outgoing personality, and then your work can be so emotional and so emotive. And so it's kind of like this whole different side of you, and you can totally get that now from like where it was when you started. Not to say that you still don't feel those things, but do you feel that where you start has progressed, or you still are working in that style a bit from how you started?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do think that so, as somebody who is a fairly optimistic and upbeat, usually outgoing person, it's very easy, and I'm not saying this is anything that you said, but it's very easy to, with my personality, it's very easy to look on the bright side, and it's all going to work out, and hey, let's go find something fun to do, you know, and those things are great and useful in lots of scenarios. And then there is that moment when you go, okay, let's just breathe for a minute and um, and allow more reflection and allow more candor, and just being willing to engage in some of those harder areas. And so I think I think it is still really reflective of myself. And there's times, honestly, when I feel like a two-pronged person, because there's a lot of things that I really wrestle with, and questions that I have, and things that I can't seem to let go of asking the questions about, and that I just have to work through. And so I think that that's probably what is coming out, is because sometimes those things are hard to articulate, why you can't stop gnawing on that bone,
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get that. There are certain things that definitely like keep cycling through, or that are never fully resolved and may never be fully resolved.
Yeah.
And just like you just keep working it out and working it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta just keep going back to it. And I mean, it's almost, in a sense, it's a little bit like repetition in paintings, where there is something really satisfying visually about having some balance or having some repetition that feels yeah, satisfying, I guess, is the best word. And so I think there is something too about being able to cycle through some of those themes, and almost reevaluate where you are now with those in relation to those, and see what kind of growth has happened or revelations you've had since the last cycle. So yeah, I find that comes up a lot.
Yeah. So then was there a certain point where, so you started Village like 4 years ago, you were saying, and so, okay, so visual art, it's hard to like trust yourself in these kind of things. I feel like, especially for new people. And if you didn't really, and you had a writing background, so you were creative, but how did you learn to trust like the artistic process?
That's so hard. That is so hard. Well, I will say that one thing is that because I have zero formal training, I was released from some of the expectations that I feel like people sometimes have of themselves when they have some more education around a topic or a area or genre or whatever. But because I didn't, I felt okay to come to it with that beginner's mind. I don't know where that's from, but that's not me. That's some famous person has talked about like coming to something with a beginner's mind and being willing and open to learning and just letting the thing unfold. So I feel like I think I was resistant at first to let myself like what I liked. I felt like I kind of needed to try different things, or if I really liked a certain color, well, you can't use that color all the time. Branch out,
Yes,
you
I
know.
struggle with that. I have
But
one
I
color
like
of
that
paint,
color.
and I just want to use this every single day. And then then you come thinking about, oh, everyone's gonna be bored of this color, or this color's gonna be boring, and it's like, no, but I love this color so much.
Yes, yes, that is exactly like if you love that magenta, use the magenta. But yes, it's exactly that. So I think that um, that was something where I went, oh, what? I just right now it's for me, anyways. Really, ultimately, well, who cares? I love that teal color, and that's okay. Like all of a sudden, you go, wow, there's a lot of that teal going on, but
Yes.
it's my teal period.
Yeah, we should all have color periods in our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, no, but I think because I didn't have any formal training in it, and I'm not a perfectionist, and I feel really quite bad for people who are, because I know what a blocker that can be. I have dear friends who are just very hard on themselves and are like, I'm not joking, like developing the beginnings of ulcers because they just have to have everything just so, and there's so much pressure on them. And I really have, I, for better or worse, I don't really struggle with that. My, that's not one of my things. And so, it's just paper, it's just paper. And if you don't like it, then paint over it. White does wonders, So I think that being coming to it already with a non-perfectionist mentality and just that beginner's mind, I think has been really useful.
Yeah. So do you ever have creative blocks? Do you feel?
Well, I make stuff that I don't like. Is that I think that counts.
But like, do you ever like just sit and stare at a page or struggle to get started?
Sometimes I struggle with knowing where something is gonna go. Like I don't no, Sarah, honestly, no.
That's awesome.
Short answer is no. Because I never know, I don't usually, lots of times I don't come to a page with something in my head of what I want it to end up looking like. It's always been for me a process of layering things on and like finding out where we're headed, like along the way. So so I feel like kind of a jerk saying that, but I just don't, I just haven't encountered that. I mean, knock on wood, but because I don't usually come to something with a really clear plan of exactly what I want an end product to look like, because for me, a lot of it is that process. And my life is such that I'm doing things in small snippets, and I'm having to work in smaller steps, and I don't get a nice chunk of time most of the time anymore to be able to devote to something. So I'm kind of working in fits and starts anyway. So I'm feeling pretty good if I got something down on the page and then run off to go do whatever I have to do. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized that I would focus, like when I first started, I would want to plan the whole thing out beforehand. And I
Yeah.
remember there was this one day I think I spent like the whole Saturday on making one page.
Ooh.
And
Was
like,
it, was it phenomenal? Was it all that you hoped?
no, I don't even remember what that page was now, thinking about it. I
Oh.
just know I started in the morning and I ended it at night. And I was just like, I just did this one page. I think it was super simple too. It wasn't like layered and layered. And then I was just like, well, that was a whole day. And I thought it was cool at the time, but thinking back on it, like now I can like work out a page in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's so much more freeing than I found, like way less stressful
Oh,
and way less concerned about what the final outcome is when I do things in quick bursts. And it's like, I can now just 1, 2, 3, I'm just like, here's some paint, here's some scribbles, and I'm done. And it gets everything out instead of just laboring over it, which is good too, I feel, but sometimes you just want it out there and you don't want to stress about every layer.
yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, and I think that that makes it more accessible when you take that pressure off, like that you don't have to set aside, and now here's my 3-hour block of creative time. Because like, what if you're hungry? What if you need to go and eat something? Then you feel like, oh no, now I cut into my like block of creative time. And like, that's just not how a lot of people's lives function, within these little categories. And so if you can be satisfied with the shorter snippets and then to be able to even work back on those same things or return to those if you feel like you want to add something to it later, but at least then you don't have that blank page fear because you've already put something down and it's probably your favorite color. And
Definitely.
and then you've got something already to work from and you take the pressure off of yourself. So I think that that probably is, I mean, although having an all day painting session sounds like glorious. So don't get me wrong, I take it. But yeah.
Yeah, but I'm definitely becoming more of a proponent of like either working like with a timer or like just moving quickly. But I still have to master the thing about going back. I still want to finish it in 5 minutes.
Oh.
Like I'm not one for like taking my time to add layers, even if it is short periods of time. I still want it done. I don't know. So that's the next step, I guess.
No, but that makes sense because you want to be able to know, okay, now I can move on to my next thing. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Do you work in different journals then if you're working in little time?
Yeah, most of the time. A lot of the time I do. I found that in Ubuntu, I couldn't because I was really, really wanting to focus on keeping that all in one. But otherwise, yeah, usually I have a couple going, in part because then while one's drying, then I can slap something else on another page, So yeah, I like being able to do that because I'm impatient. And if I do get that time, then I want to like, let's just get going here. Let's do it.
Maximize it.
Yeah. Which is not the most restful. That is not like the best opportunity for reflective meditation. But if it's that or nothing, I'll take that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you have like, you mentioned layers before, and then I'm just thinking about the tutorials for Ubuntu, which was layers as well. Do you think layer, like, I don't want to say layers is a technique, but is it like one of your favorite things to do is work in layers?
I'm thinking. I do. Yeah. Yeah, because I love when other things peek through. Like I love transparent layers where you still get a little bit of whatever is on the underneath kind of peeking through, and yet it's informed by the next layer and they're like playing and interacting, I do really find that gratifying. But I also don't like when I put the layers on and then one of them rips and then I can see the whole thing and then all my layering has been for nothing. So
it happened to me the other day. I was just like scribbling a layer and then it peeled back a couple layers. I was like, well, this defeated the purpose. But I think I just scribbled over it again. I was like, whatever.
There went that idea.
Yes.
Yes, I've had that happen. That is frustrating. Or there's times when you thought what you were using was permanent, and then you find out that oh no, it isn't, and then it makes kind of a muddy mess, and that's fun to figure out too.
Yeah. Do you have favorite supplies that you work with?
I really like using palette knives. I like the texture that I love doing gesso with palette knives, because they clean up so nice.
Yes.
But I love that scrumbly texture that you can get with, I mean, I looked it up because it is like a fantastic word, but also it is a technique called scrumbling, I think, where you're just scraping it really lightly over the paper, over another layer, and it leaves like these wonderful little bubbles and bumps, and it's just yummy. So
yeah,
I
think I know what you're talking about. It's like, is it when, I don't know why I'm going to try to describe this,
right.
But like you're swiping down and it doesn't swipe evenly.
Yes.
And so it like separates and there's a little bump here, a little bump there, or a streak here, and then it connects with the hole. Yes. I've learned to love that too. So I love doing that with like paint because I kind of want my gesso to be smooth, but my paint, I love that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it with gesso, and then you put ink over the top of that, and then it picks up on all these little variations. I love it. And paint is, of course, wonderful. So I like palette knives. Palette knives are great. I have found that I really like India ink because of its transparency. Other inks, like an acrylic ink, is more opaque. And so, again, this is all learning curve stuff for me, but finding that the India inks, those tend to be transparent. And so then again, that whole layering thing where you can see you still can pick up on what's underneath. I really like the end result of that. So I do really like those. I'm just a sucker for spray inks, but I don't like the ones that are water soluble because then I have to wait to use them until the very end, and that's irritating. It's really bothersome. So
I discovered that problem too, because sometimes you just sort of spray first, and then all of a sudden it's like picking up and mixing, and you're just like, I didn't want that.
I was not going for that. No. And it's too bad because there's so many like those Dilutions ones, and I think that Dina Wakely has some too. I really love the
all those are water soluble.
Oh, they're so beautiful, but they're so water soluble. So so I found these other ones, these marabous, I think they're called. And those ones are really nice, and they do stay put, which makes them my favorites.
Nice. And Indie ink is permanent too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll stay put too. Yeah. So those are I go to those a lot. And also, if you are in a pinch for time, those spray inks are, man, that's a lot of bang for your buck because those things, they dry pretty quickly. They've got not a lot of real saturated color, and use those with a stencil and you're off to the races. So yeah, it's nice.
So you have some journals. Do you want to share some pages?
Sure. Yeah, let me figure out. Let's see what we're doing here.
Talking about art supplies, might as well show some of them off.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, here we are then, I guess. So I went through kind of a stage where I was doing a lot of scraping of paint, and then trying to use some stencils with it too. So like this is an old page remember. I used a stamp on mine to say what the date was. Oh, this is from 2015.
Oh, wow.
So I like how that one turned out. And then this is just a piece of scrapbook paper, but I did a little journaling in there so I could kind of keep it to myself, but it was sort of incorporated. So I like that one. And I love these little, I don't even know if I can get them at a store anymore, if I have to order them online, but these little vintagey pictures, like photo booth pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They're so fun.
Oh, you found them in store?
No, well, I did, but this was a while back, and I've almost used them all up because it was a nice chunk of 3 or 4 on a strip.
So, yeah, I started photographing my vintage photos, or copying. That's the word I'm looking for. Copying my vintage photos.
Why are you such a genius?
More black and white. And so it's like the tint, sometimes, vintage paper, vintage photos have that weird orange tinge. Mm-hmm. So I'll photocopy them, and then I have the original, and I can just keep photocopying it and photocopying it and photocopying it. Oh. I started doing that a lot.
You are so smart. This is a fantastic idea. Why are you just telling me this now?
Because I just started doing it like a couple of weeks ago.
That's seriously brilliant. I love it.
There was one I wanted to use, and I didn't want to use it. So I was like, let me just take a copy.
Yeah. Why would I not? That's perfect. Yes, I will. Well, now I'm going to steal that idea and start.
Yeah, and I would even go through your old journals and photocopy those and use those pictures.
Your ideas keep on coming. Come on. What else? What else have you started doing lately that I need to know about?
That's basically just photocopying everything.
Everything. I like it. Let's see. I've led a couple art journaling retreats, like little workshop things. Mm-hmm. And so this is one that it got smushed because it was in a journal. And it got smushed.
Wow.
But so that's one where we kind of had it shut, and then there's a quote on there that I love, which is about, I'll read it to you in a sec here, but I don't know. Does that show up at all or not?
It does. I don't want to talk much so that people can see it more.
Oh, okay.
It stays stuck on you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that, and I'll read the thing to you. So it's by Cynthia Ocelli. Ocelli. I think that's what it is. We're just going to go with it. Yes. To someone who didn't understand about growth, it would, I'm going to slaughter this. It would look like complete destruction. And it's referring to a seed. Oh, here it is. Okay. Cut. Okay, so here is the quote goes, to someone who didn't understand about growth, I did it again. I'm starting in the wrong spot. I really want you to hear this quote because it's so beautiful. Okay, for a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks and its insides come out and everything changes. To someone who didn't understand about growth, it would look like complete destruction. Mm-hmm. And it's Cynthia Ocelli, I think it's OCECLLI or something. Anyways, it's brilliant. So
yeah, that was worth it.
Yeah, I just think that's phenomenal. So yeah, so that's that little page. Little crushed flowers. I'm trying to think if there's anything else from this one, because this one's a few years old.
So you said you were leading retreats, or you were attending retreats?
Yeah, so get a load of this. So I found this to be so useful for myself, in my own just angsty, turmoily trouble, that I had this friend who is like a clinical counselor, and she teaches counseling at a university, and she was starting this thing where she was hosting retreats, just contemplative retreats on different topics sometimes. And so I just went to her and was like, I don't know, you don't need to use me, but you need to know about this, because this thing is so in line, like, and just dovetails so well with what you're doing. And so she invited me to come and start leading some of those. Now she's not doing that anymore. She's shifted and her job has changed, and so she doesn't have room to be doing that any longer. But it was great. I mean, we had she had this beautiful space, and people would come and kind of be ready to do just some reflecting and have some quiet space to have some time set aside. And yeah, it was really,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
it was so fun. It was so much work, but it was so fun. Like, I was so, I just found it so beautiful to be a part of other people's process and journey, and like, and the bumping up against themselves that they did, and that wrestling that they were doing, and to be able to come alongside of them and just let them know that that was okay and not surprising. And now what are you going to do with that? Like, with that perfectionism or with that paralyzed feeling. And I remember, okay, so this is kind of a tangent, but there was this one woman who came through, and we were talking about, what were we talking about? I was leading them through some different steps and always inviting them to, take this, use this if you want to, go off in a whole different direction if you want to. There's lots of space here for whatever you need to do. And we were talking with her afterwards, and she had put the stencil that looked like little chain links, and but they weren't coming out linked, they were coming out separated. And she was so bothered by that, like really bothered by that, like to an interesting psychological degree, like where she was wanting those chains to be linked. And she told us more about what she was reflecting on when she was creating the page, and it sounded like she was almost forming a cell around herself, and it was kind of a cell of punishment in a sense. So we were all like, maybe the chains need to not be there, but she couldn't let that happen.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm choking, so I have to take a drink of water. Hold on. Oh, I'm so sorry. Whew.
Yeah. I mean, that must have been an amazing experiences, because you can really see how just working through a process, what that can really be like in person for someone.
Yeah, it was wild. And sometimes some of the people who would come with a friend, or I did a couple of groups of people, and the things that they were able to point out and see in one another's pages was absolutely beautiful. Like, where the one person who was creating the page would think that they were focused on and aiming towards this trajectory, and their friends who knew and loved them could say, wow, that, I really see this part of your story or your struggle in that page. And they would be like, I wasn't even thinking about that, but yes, you're totally right. Like, it was all these epiphanies, all these aha moments. It was really cool to be a part of. So I think this is another page we did, and this has some deli paper with some just stamps put on there, and then there's some shiny stickers. I don't know. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just kind of once again just kind of letting myself like the colors I liked and not worry about whether those were cool enough or not. Just wanting to use them and having the satisfaction of getting to use them,
Yeah, it's so cool how you incorporate your writing in that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I think that piece of it does, it draws, I think in my mind, it draws you in and makes you slow down and try to even decipher it. And I don't even care so much if you can, but it's almost like that pause before I turn the page to the next thing, that it's not all immediately available. I kind of like that aspect of.
Yeah, you have to work for it a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And not just like glance, yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
more meaningful, and there's more power to it.
Now I have to cough again. My son got this terrible cold that he can't kick, and I'm worried that he's sharing the wealth. This is not good.
No.
Okay. So I picked out, I really mostly brought ones from this season. Nope, not from this season, but from this year. Because I kind of wanted, you have to stop someplace. And really these were journals where I was using altered books or making my own little journal rather than using a spiral bound one. So, or one of these watercolor ones where the pages all fall out anyway. So I kind of thought that maybe I would share just some of those from this past year.
Yeah. So just before you get into that, you usually use the spiral bound just because it was easier to find?
Yeah, I really started with those. I always liked the ones that didn't have the spiral, but then what I was finding when I was buying bound ones was that my book would be like,
yes.
And
like this?
Yes, like that.
Well, this, I think I also cracked the spine. Like, the spine is cracked weird. But, like, if it didn't have this rubber band, this would be driving me nuts. Like, yes. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yes, exactly. I need one of those expando things, like, I don't know where you find that. But so yeah, doing some of those, and even some of the ones that I've done still do some of that same thing. But at least now they're not right, even
the spiles are big enough. It can compensate.
Yeah. So that's kind of, but a spiral bound is, so much more readily available that, that ain't no shame in that. That's what you got. Use it, because those can have some nice paper and stuff in them too.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that Season of Connections was about this time last year. And I can't remember. Yeah, so that was one where I kind of felt like it was kind of like Sorry Not Sorry in a sense. Because there was things there that were very different from other things that I had done, and I used some of my own image in this one, which I had not done much of at all. And some of the images of myself, it's just my head, but they're not all real happy pictures. So they're, but I think that felt like, that there's no one-dimensional person. Like, we're all so complex, and we're all made up of so many experiences and have so many different aspects to us, whether we're in stress or health or with different situations or different people, or so I felt like, well, let's just see where this goes. So this one, I used a lot of red string in this one, and I don't know I don't know why that happened, but that seemed right. So, so there's a lot of red string, which I found really gratifying. It felt like the right thing to do. So, and then there's more of those photo booth pictures, which I will now be photocopying for further use in the future, thanks to Sarah. So I don't know. There's some journaling. I was trying this vellum paper, this pattern vellum paper, and honestly, I am stymied by the stuff because it's all crunchy and it's kind of transparent, but kind of not. And
it sounds cool though. when you touch it.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
I love the sound of vellum.
Okay, I'll give you that. That does make it more useful. And I was doing some more image transfers and then also trying white space. Oh, I'm just not. You are so good at white space.
I love white space.
You're so good at it, and I am so not. And
I love the page so much.
I should have known that this would really speak to you.
It's just like space. Like maybe I feel claustrophobic in journals. I don't know. But it just seems like there's so much space in that. And you just have so much room to like experience it. You know, because like you can kind of just wander when you're looking at the page and then you can come back to it. And you can wander away again and then come back to it. And just like, I don't know. There's just space, which is lovely.
Okay, well, that hearing that instead of just being told, like, you need more white space or something, like, that's what the right thing to do is, that makes me understand it better even now. So,
like, that's how I feel about white space. Like, it's just breathing room. Yeah.
I like that. That works. I like the wander and then return idea, too. That is quite lovely. So this one I was trying to do, I don't know. I put down a bunch of colors here and then I painted over them, and while it was still wet, I scraped into them so they would show up.
Very cool.
I've not perfected that technique. I keep trying because I really like it, but it's not quite working for me exactly yet, but I like it enough to keep trying to.
Yeah, I can definitely see where it could go. And you can tell the colors behind it.
A little bit. Yeah. Well, they peek out a little, but I want more. I need something wider. I was trying one of those foam. I have tried this with one of those foam brushes with they're like 50 cents or something. You know the ones?
Yes.
They're made of foam, and then they have that dowel almost. I tried doing it with that, and that was almost not pointy enough. Like it still didn't scrape the way I wanted it to.
I'll have to think on that. I'll look through my stuff and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
If I find anything.
Yeah, let me know what you think, because I'm still on the lookout for a better way of doing that. And then we got another image transfer. So this one was, I think this was a prompt actually that we were trying to do some blind contouring. So I did her, and here's another vellum piece.
Love it.
And so then there's another blind contour, but with some paint behind it. Excuse me. And then a bunch of journaling and some red string. Because that's how we roll. And then she's sad. She's got some little white splotches on her. But I really like trying to draw faces. That was one of the things that I felt like I wanted to get better at that, because I didn't feel confident about it. And there were times when drawing any kind of face at all was just what the page needed, and I didn't feel like I had that skill. And so I did, like, I'm kind of a book nerd, so I really like tactile physical books. So I got a Dina Wakley book from, like, I don't know if I found it at a Half Price Books or something like that, and I like stumbled into it and was like, what? Like my head was like exploding, because I had never again, no training, so had never, like, I feel like that was one of those aha moments when you go, oh, well, this right here, this is the game, because I didn't know that look at what she did. So so being able to do scribbly faces, and then I did I took a Jane Davenport class, because her girls are always so cute, and they just are, and her shading is so pretty, and my girls don't look like that at all. But at least I got a little bit better at understanding some of the mathematics of a face, in a sense, like the proportionality, which I'm sure someone told me in high school when I was taking some art class, I guess, but it never sunk in, like the idea of like a head being in what? Like the
Yeah.
nose is where? Like, so it was very useful. So, and I'm not saying that this person is like perfect, but I really like just being able to incorporate faces. And I really like trying to incorporate different ethnicities and different skin colors, and just an appreciation for the wide, glorious variety that
Yes,
is.
because that's one thing you can't easily find in magazines is
Yeah.
the variety.
Yeah.
Or like real women, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So I like that. And then there's always, a few pages even within where a little more of the quirky, lighthearted stuff comes out, and that's, I think, equally as valid or equally as important for some representation too, because I'm not always walking around with a little gray cloud over my head, so that's good to have that in there.
Yes.
So, and then I'm almost done with this one, but I just, because of all the string and the continuity, because I hadn't really done a theme, I think, before, like continued reusing an element in a whole journal before. So that was like a new discovery, or that's, I don't know, just that I let myself do that was a new thing for me. So I figured I'd show you all the string.
Nice. I like that idea. I want to think about that. Like, I sometimes try to connect things with like marks, like making sure I'm repeating marks throughout the journal. But I've never done like a physical connection between pages.
What's our next season? What's our next season coming up, Sarah?
Freedom?
Nah, just teasing. But yeah, I mean, that was the first time, and I haven't really done a lot of that in other places, except that I do sometimes I kind of get on a bent where I'm like, more sewing patterns, like I can't get enough sewing patterns, put them on everything, that thing. So in a sense, it is there, kind of like mark making, but it's less of a, like, here's an obvious big chunk of red string on every page. Yeah. I do have another one. I'm just trying to think of ones that, I like this one because this one has a page from you in it. It does. This is my kindness journal, and this is one that was, I think is it a concertina? Help me, Sarah. Where you could do it one way and then you flip it and you can do it the other way too. Like it's kind of half one way.
It's like an accordion. A concertina is another word for accordion because it kind of folds out.
See, I'm getting smarter just from talking to you right now.
Well, because we were looking this up the other day because they're like, why is it? Because I know it as accordion, and then we're like, well, why is some people call it concertina? And concertina is just another musical instrument that has folds like an accordion.
It is?
Yeah, it's an actual instrument. So you know how accordions have those folding things? A concertina is another folding instrument that like bellows when you open it and close it. We looked it up because I was like, why is it called concertina? Why is it called accordion? They're two different instruments with the same kind of folds.
I just got so much smarter. I seriously had no idea. That's fantastic.
Because I'm like, I'll just Google it. So I just Googled it.
Just Google it. Yes. Why would I not? That's so brilliant. Oh, well, so this is my concertina accordion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and this one I was kind of obsessed with the tissue paper.
Cover.
And it has, I wish you could see, it's got just really scrummy kind of texture on there because it is some of what I was doing was using the sewing pattern tissue stuff and just scrunching it up and then putting it on, and then using India inks over the top of that, and then just trying to get, once that was all dry, taking a palette knife with some just some white paint and just scritching just on the top edges so that you could get more, I don't know, more of the texture would be popping out. So
Yeah.
it worked a little bit better on the back.
Oh, wow.
It
That
just
looks
makes me
amazing.
happy. Isn't that silly? I just love it. But this was a page that I really liked, and that one ended up kind of working the way I was, I guess, happy with the outcome. I liked how these guys were a lot lighter and then had the darkness around them. And then just starting to get back towards using some more words or quotes in a little bit more of my pages, I guess. So I like that one. And then again, trying to incorporate more people. I'm going to show you this, and it is not very good, and that is okay. So, but I liked it enough because it was a tutorial. I think that, was it Ellie that did it?
Yeah, I think Ellie did that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And so even though my little people are disproportional and like, I don't even know what's going on. He's not mad. He's not supposed to be mad. Like, I don't know why he looks like that. But I just liked being able to represent family like that for me. And then I was happy with the way this other side came out because it was a pattern paper that it happened to just kind of work with the colors that I wanted to use. So don't you love it when a plan comes together? Let's see. Well, and again, this is another awesome tutorial that I was like surprised by how moved I was when I was doing this. It was like surprising. It surprised me. Remember these hands?
Yes.
With the little, and I did some journaling under them, and they're all. I used I don't know if it's butcher.
Oh, like Baker's twine?
Thank you. That, yeah, it's like the pattern stuff.
Yeah.
There's little slices in there, and that I was like, oh, there's slices. Oh, they're healed. Oh my word, this is like I just couldn't. That one got me. And there's fun little texture on that page too. It's hard to see, but I think. And then okay, so this was a page where I was trying for white space, but I only could get it around the edges, and so I don't know if it actually counts or not. But I really like how this guy turned out because I like the colors. Those all make me very happy.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's kind of like it's breaking through, you know? Because it seems like the white slightly overlaps and it's like breaking through.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about the breaking through. But I love the quote too, and I like that it's kind of you kind of have to work for it a little bit. But it's Mary Oliver, because who doesn't love Mary Oliver? Oh, and it's I believe in kindness, also in mischief. And then there's like a second part of it where it's like, and singing when it's not necessary. Like, I'm like, that's my life motto right there. Yes. Yeah, that one got me. Yeah, so then there's this one more, and then I'll show you the other one. But this one just says, like, I think you have permission to remove yourself from unkindness. And I think there's so many times when I feel like we think we have to remain in a relationship or we have to remain in a situation. I'm like, nah, take a hike, get out of there, man. Like, you do not have to let people treat you with unkindness, and I don't care who they are. So that is not always an easy thing to come to realize, and sometimes you get a little trampled on before you can let that one be true, but I think it's true. But this was your page. Did I ever show you this? I feel like I should have made sure to tag you. I don't know if I did, but I just was so happy with your.
Yeah, I love the gold, like putting the gold over the tears. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a what's that Japanese word for that? Where
I have
they
no idea, but I know what you're talking about when they repair the ceramics. I don't know the word, but yeah,
we have to Google it, Sarah, because it is such a
I won't be
beautiful
able to pronounce it. But yeah,
yeah. And this one has, I don't know if you can tell, but I used a like a little bit of metallic paint too, which
oh, and now I can see it.
yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for shiny things. I'm like a little crow, so I liked that all together with the shine of the gold on the other page. That made me happy. Yeah, I tried another page in a different. This is one of those found journals. White space.
I love it. See, now I need to start working on the top. I've been working on the bottom and leaving all the white space on the top. And I want to try working and leaving the white space on the bottom.
Yeah, flip it around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have this goal of these found journals. What season was that? And I'm losing track.
Don't ask me.
I'm losing track. Well, but I had this great goal of like putting these 4 journals all, incorporating them into a altered book or whatever, and I haven't gotten to that quite yet. So that is the goal. But I feel like I'm getting like my style is almost shifting a little bit where I wouldn't say that I don't do as much layering, but maybe I'm using a few more layers of paint and less other items. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been doing that more lately instead of using papers and more papers. And like this one has some papers over here. These are some pattern papers that had some gold in them. And obviously there's some like these pretty lots.
Like amazing.
Oh, you're really sweet.
No, I'm like dying over here. It's so amazing.
Sarah, oh my goodness. No, just stop it. So you're really kind. Yeah, so I feel like I'm kind of in a new, not a rut because it's a good thing. So I don't know what the opposite of a rut is, but I feel like I'm like enjoying that process because it's so organic. Like there's a lot of water in that paint and it's a lot of it are the spray inks, but then I'm putting them on something else and smushing them in it or like dropping them and letting it play and do what it wants, which seems like it should be less work because it seems like you should just let the thing do its own whatever it wants to do. And I've not found that to be the case.
Yeah, I found when I do like watercolor on like gesso, it acts in a nice way, but I still just want to like force it to do something it's not going to do. I'm just like, I need to let it do its thing. I know. But then I don't want to let it do its thing.
I want to be the boss of that.
Yes. And I figure I'm letting it doing its thing by being watercolor, and there are certain things you can never control, but I want to control what I can control.
That just sounds like making a plan, really. You're just prepared.
I'm still trying to fight that.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I'm just trying to see if there's any other journals over here that... Oh, do you want to see a scary face? Because this one was in the season of story. And I was trying to do... now, again, see, why don't I write down whose tutorial it was? But I was trying to do... Maybe it was Tiffany. We had a photo, and then you tried to continue drawing the photo.
Yes, that was hers.
How did that go for you, Sarah?
I didn't try that because I knew it would be a failure.
Yeah. Let me just show you what I ended up with. Everything's all happy. Everything's going along fine. We're all good. And then all of a sudden, this is not what I was going for. This is just what ended up happening. I really look like I might attack. Like in that picture, close up, like the side that is an actual photograph is fine. It's pleasant. I'm friendly. The other side, I'm like,
I shouldn't laugh. That's really mean.
totally true. It's totally true. I'm going to show you one more time because you're going to see what I'm saying. You're going to feel threatened. Scary. Super scary. Okay, so then I have to show you this one because I don't think of myself as a natural drawer. But I drew a pig because it was the season of story, and this is one of the stories that it's like one of those family jokes that is so overdone that it's not really funny anymore, and you're just kind of tired of it because you've heard it 30,000 times.
Yes.
But then you're like some neighbor or somebody from out of town or somebody else comes along and your people start telling the joke and it becomes like the funniest joke that you've ever heard. And you're like supporting them in the joke. So this is the little pig.
He's cute.
And the joke is about a three-legged pig, and I'm not going to tell the whole joke. So just know that it is about a three-legged pig and how he got 3 legs. You don't want to know. Okay, so I have one more page in here. And this is still from Story. And it might burn your eyes a little bit, but I really like the way it turned out. And
that's a setup. It might burn your eyes.
If you're looking for white space, Sarah, you will not find it here.
Oh, my eyes. I think I see like one little bit of white.
You have to consider the orange being white.
Okay, I'll do that.
If you just pretend that the orange is white, then there's plenty of white. But I love the idea of that. Like, I remember reading a book quite a few years ago where it was talking about like being intentional about the story that you're living. Like, and if you don't like it, or if you don't let yourself take any risks, or if you just continue doing the same things and letting your story or your life control you, that you're like selling yourself short, and you do have more control over your story than you might think. And even if that means that you put yourself in uncomfortable situations or make yourself try something different or new, or you even try to train yourself to have a different response when that same person is their same butthead self to you. If you try to train yourself to have a different reaction to them instead of entering into that same loop of how this is going to go, and we both know that can really release you and allows you to become more of the hero of your own story instead of like a passive secondary character in your own story, which is kind of ends up being sort of a tragedy in a sense. So I just like that concept. So that kind of came up when I was thinking about story, I guess.
Yeah, that's really great.
Okay, so that's all for that guy. Do we have time for Ubuntu? Because
sure.
It's teeny, but it's stuffed. So it's little. Like, see how small?
I kind of loved how little the season was.
Did you?
Because I didn't think I picked, well, I don't know if I have my journal here with me, but I picked, of course, a small one. And halfway through, I was like, I'm never going to finish this thing. And then I just found myself going and doing a little page and having it done, and another little page and it's done. And all of a sudden, there's 1 page left, and I'm just like, what happened?
I feel like I needed another week of pages in there, and I didn't account for that at all. Yes, I totally agree. And I never work small like this. If anything, I want more. Like,
yeah, this is like the smallest I've ever worked too. And it's just like, okay, I kind of like it.
Yeah, I could see the appeal. I get it. I get that. So this is ended up being the cover. It's not really fancy or anything. I don't even know if you can even.
I can read it. Yeah.
You can see it. Okay.
You can figure it out. It's leaves and
yeah.
So all the tags coming out are really cool.
Oh, aren't those kind of fun? So yeah, just some bright colors, and I did find that I was using some of the same materials, which again is like a new different thing. And then doing some because it's so small.
Oh,
And I decided to incorporate some more journaling, kind of not after the fact, but like halfway through, I realized, oh, I wanted to say something more. So then this little guy.
you think of that. That's awesome.
And that little guy flaps back and forth. This one, I was real pissed on this day. So this little gal, she was useful. You know, there's things in the United States that can really tick a person off.
Yep.
Not everybody, and that's okay. We don't all have to have the same perspective, but boy, oh, there's some stuff. I like this guy because it has some little peoples.
Oh, yeah.
Hey. I wish that I had like some really clever quote or some really beautiful writing, and just that's not my strong suit. And so that was what we ended up with. There's this little colory guy. Lots of splatters on this guy. I
love that quote.
I kind of went nuts.
Or that question. I love that question.
You know, there are some people who like dream about flying, or some people who dream in black and white all the time. Like, I think dreams are so interesting when you start hearing.
I'll see, when my dad said he dreams in black and white, I tell him he's lying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you can't. And he thinks I'm lying when I say dream color. But I'm like, no, you're lying.
That is so crazy. Not crazy, but like that is so funny, because that is exactly it. Like, so people can't believe that somebody else would dream.
He's like, you do not dream in color. How do you see the color? I'm like, my brain knows the color. I guess I don't say he's lying when he dreams in black and white, but he always says I'm lying when I say dream in color. I'm like, I know colors with my eyes closed. Like, so.
But you're not using the cones in your.
So that's why he thinks I'm lying, because he doesn't understand that. And I'm just like, but. I'm like, okay, Dad.
Well, you're going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yes.
That's funny. Well, and I don't think I've ever dreamed of flying, and my mom has flying dreams. And those
I've
are
never had a flying dream either.
You haven't?
No.
Yeah.
I've never had a falling dream. Like, there's certain dreams I see people, like, I've never had that either.
Falling. Well, I have had falling dreams, but I kind of jerk myself awake, and I think that's falling, but I never die. Does that count?
Well, I'm glad you don't die.
Like, are we getting into like that movie Inception territory? Like, you're a dream within a dream within a dream for 3-4 levels down, and time slows down. Okay, we're gone. Okay, let me get back on track.
Major tangent.
Sorry. When I made this, I put some little map pages from like a Minnesota map in here. So I kind of wanted to make sure I had at least one page where you could actually tell. There's some lakes and some green and some old-timey lady. So yeah, just moving through this one. I like have these great plans for this, and then I don't even know if you can tell, but there's like an arm here and an arm here. I don't know what, I forget now what I was planning to do.
That's interesting. I really wish I had my journal here. I kind of did one similar where it's like unlegible writing, so you can't read the writing, and then there's hands, and that's exactly what that is.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Or is it like a mind meld thing? That's
just
cool.
the season.
It's the season. So this is one of, I think this was Tiffany again.
Oh, yeah, she did the tags.
The little tags, and I did some writing on the back of it. And I made this page, and I always meant to come back to it, but then I made this tag, and it seems to go real nicely with it. So now that's its home. It just stays there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you were talking about, is it triptychs?
Yes. Or diptychs.
Diptychs.
Or it's 2 things. A triptych would be 3.
Okay, so diptych.
Yeah, diptych.
Okay, so this was my attempt at that, and I wondered if it made any sense to anyone else but me. But I saw this picture in a magazine someplace, and I was like, so irritated. I found it so irritating. And then I was like, well, why am I finding that so irritating? And couldn't figure it out. And then I was looking at it's like a hunting magazine or an outdoorsy magazine that my father-in-law had given my husband, and blah, 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 and I'm looking at it, and there's these, like, this scene of these fence lines with barbed wire and all this, like, in the middle of this gorgeous open scene of like just prairie and grass and hills, and then all of a sudden like this man-made control whatever thing, and I'm like, ooh, maybe that needs to go with that, and then we'll just leave it there. But I was surprised by how annoyed I was. I'm like, I should probably listen to that. I'm gonna just put that there and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
This one was my my tutorial from this season. And that little guys up there. And then I like that these things kind of are on their own. Like, I like them on their own because I think they look pretty on their own. But then when you pile them up too, I still think they're really pretty. So.
Yeah, and there's more of those layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pat myself on my own back, my word.
Yeah, I never thought of using alcohol inks on transparency, and now I feel like I need to do that and just have like a whole stash ready to go at any time.
I know, they're addicting. So then, so this one I didn't seal it, and then my stamp words came off on my hands. So this one just said, "You are not alone," and so I was kind of going the same kind of idea. So there's a tiny little star Brad up there, and then this just says, "In this deepest sorrow." And these friends of ours had this just it was actually a friend of my sister's, had just this horrible tragedy happen, and it was just one of those things where you just can't believe that it's real, like that could actually happen in a person's life. Just horrible. And at the same time, so you want to somehow acknowledge, like, this is as bad as it gets. Like, there is nothing that could be any worse than this. And yet in that, I don't even know you, but I know that you absolutely are experiencing this alone. Nobody can tell you what that's like, but you're not alone, like, even in the midst of just the absolute worst, there's always people, even strangers, who care and who will surprise you with their care for you if you allow them to do that. So anyways, long story, but that was that page. It was so sad, just so sad for this family and what they're headed into and the fallout from it and whatever. So yeah, so that was that page. That just felt like that worked, especially for the season of our shared humanity and the things that bind us all together. So anyway, yeah, so that's that one. That's my last journal. That's all I've got. Stop showing you my show and tell all night long.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your journals are pretty amazing.
Oh, you're very kind, Sarah. Thank you.
Pretty amazing, and you are pretty amazing.
Oh, you're just too much. I just love it. This has been such a great conversation too.
Yeah, it really has. I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. We were trying to find a time that worked, so I'm glad that we could make this happen.
Yes, me too. Okay. So yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, that sounds great. Have a good night.
You too.